Follow our journey as we spend 5 days in Vanuatu. We flew with Solomon Airways direct from Brisbane to the island of Santo, just 3 hours away. Be sure to grab a window seat as you won't want to miss the amazing views of the South Pacific Islands. We are travelling in July, which is the dry season. You will still get some cloudy rainy days, but it's the best chance for dry sunny days. The airport on arrival is small and easy to navigate. There is a money exchange just outside the main entrance. We exchanged our Australian dollars as the rate was much better than it was back in Australia. Just a few steps away is where we met our taxi driver that we pre-arranged with our resort. The resort we stayed in was called Turtle Bay Lodge and it was around a 30-minute drive. The resort was in a great location on the east coast, perfect for all the things we wanted to see in Santo. An in-depth look at the resort will be coming later in the video. Vanuatu is famous for a lot of things and one of them is the blue holes. The first thing we wanted to try was kayaking straight from our resort to the Matevulu Blue Hole, which is about a 50-minute kayak. First it was around about a 20-minute paddle across the bay, then we made our way up the river, which was about another 30 minutes, before arriving at the Matevulu Blue Hole. All blue holes are privately owned in Vanuatu, so payment is required to visit. We prepaid with our resort before we arrived, but you can also just pay the worker on arrival. So how are blue holes created? When it rains, fresh water from the island's volcanic mountains flows underground into limestone caves, which corrodes the limestone and creates underground streams. Eventually these streams resurface as freshwater springs, or as you can see here, these blue holes. Matevulu Blue Hole is known as one of the most fun, as there are several rope swings hanging from the trees and there's also a slide at one end of the blue hole. The blue holes can look different shades of blue depending on the tides, whether it's rained, and also if there's cloud around. The locals working there told us as soon as the tide started to drop, the hole would look more blue, and it definitely did. Then it was back down the river, into the bay for some well-earned lunch. If you're coming to Santo Island, one of the key things you'll want to see is Champagne Beach. Often rated as one of the top beaches in the world, it was at the top of our list of things to see. There are lots of ways to get to Champagne Beach, such as a private driver, or on a tour, or as we decided to do, hire a quad bike. We'd never driven quad bikes before, but we're glad we did, as it was so much fun. It really gave us the freedom to spend as long as we wanted at different parts and stop whenever we wanted to. Navigating to the beach is simple, as there's really only one main road that runs up the east coast. All the main tourist spots are well signposted, so it's very hard to get lost. For the most part, the roads are pretty good, but there are some areas of big potholes, which you do have to slow down to almost to a stop. As you drive down the road, you'll start to see your first glimpses of the ocean, which means you're getting closer to Champagne Beach. You'll then see a large sign which you can't miss, and then it's down a bumpy road into Champagne Beach. The beach is privately owned and you can pay cash on arrival at the small hut at the entrance. We saw cows and pigs grazing on the side of the road. The quad bike can be pretty noisy, but they didn't seem to be too bothered and just continued chomping on the grass. As you'll enter, you'll see several huts, which are cafes and souvenir shops. On the right hand side is a toilet block and changing rooms. We decided to head to a clump of trees as we saw some shade, and it looked like the perfect place that we could park the quad bike. Although we've seen pictures before, nothing prepared us for just how beautiful this beach really was. The water was just stunning. There really wasn't many people at the beach either, and we weren't sure if this was normal or if it was just because it was outside school holidays. We were told to be careful if cruise liners arrived on the island, because this beach can get incredibly busy, but luckily there were none arriving while we were staying on the island. This instantly became one of our favourite beaches of all time. The water was just so beautiful and you could snorkel and swim and it was nice and calm. There were also lots of shady spots and benches which made our time all the more enjoyable. You could easily spend the whole day here, especially if you're a beach lover like us. Champagne Beach gets its name from the fizz that the water creates as it crashes on the shore. There's a champagne bar up at the beach, but it wasn't open while we were there. There are several cafes that you can buy cold drinks and some limited food. Purchasing here is a great way to support the locals, and the coconuts were ice cold. Here's a quick look at the menu and the different things you can buy. On our second visit here, we actually decided to bring packed lunches from the resort. It was so nice because they gave us these little cooler bags and the sandwiches were really delicious. We sat in the shade and enjoyed our lunch while we looked at the incredible blue water and white sand. Then it was back in the water just to float around and enjoy the incredible paradise. As the sun was setting, it was almost time for us to leave. Before we did, we were lucky enough to see a performance of the Vanuatu Water Women's music. This unique sound display was truly mesmerising. This display was being put on for some visitors to the beach, so we were lucky to catch it. Normally to see the water ladies is part of a tour in other parts of the island, so we felt incredibly lucky to see them at Champagne Beach. There seemed to only be one main petrol station on the east coast of Santo, so make sure you fill up like we did if you're running low. There was also a small snack shop and souvenirs with good prices. It was then on to our next beach location, which was Port Olry. Again, navigating here was really simple and well signposted. We arrived to absolutely breathtaking white sand and blue sea again. There are a few places you can stay here which had basic accommodation, and there was a local cafe selling food. We had lunch here, but it wasn't great unfortunately and quite expensive. We had read reviews that people had much better experiences, so it might have been an off day. At one end of the beach there's an amazing sandbar and tons of snorkeling spots dotted around. Although we didn't, you can walk across the sandbar at low tide. If this is something you want to do, make sure you check the tide times before you go. The cafe was located on the southern end of the beach and had breathtaking views out to the white sand and blue sea. The locals were really friendly, and we also enjoyed another coconut here. Port Olry is located around 16 kilometres north of Champagne Beach. It took us around 20 minutes. We would have liked to have stayed long here, but there's just so much we wanted to fit in on our short stay on this island. The day we arrived it was pretty windy, so that might be something you want to look out for if you're planning a visit here. We were more than happy just to sit and relax and watch the waves roll in onto the white sand. As we sat there enjoying the view, we also got to see some local fishermen out in their traditional boats. As the shadows grew long in the afternoon, although we didn't want to leave, it was time for us to make our way back to the resort. Cars will often need to come onto the other side of the road in Santo as they navigate the potholes, so make sure you slow down and allow them to pass. Everyone is so friendly and they wave and flash their lights as a thank you. Our next location was Landa Blue Hole, which is also known as Jackie's Blue Hole. Of the 3 blue holes we visited, this was our favourite, and you'll see why shortly. This blue hole was well signposted and again very close to our resort. Although you do see some small cars in Vanuatu, a 4x4 or quad bike is definitely recommended for some of the roads. There are changing rooms and toilet facilities on the grounds of the Blue Hole. This Blue Hole also had a nice shop which sold crisps and drinks and other souvenirs. Nothing prepared us for just how blue and incredible this blue hole was. It was like looking into an aquarium, and we've just felt so lucky to be able to dive into these incredible waters. Although I already had approval to fly my drone by the government in Vanuatu, I did ask the landowners at the Blue Hole if it was okay. It was amazing to see this perspective of the blue holes and how the rivers led to the oceans. This is definitely one of the deepest blue holes we've visited, so it's something worth noting if you're travelling with children or if you're not a strong swimmer. It really does take your breath away. In some areas it's around 13 metres deep or 43 feet. It's just absolutely stunning with endless blue colours. We always ask the locals which was their favourite blue hole. Some of them would say Matevulu because of the rope swings and it was so much fun. Others would say Nanda because it was so blue. Much like the rest of our experience on the island, it really wasn't busy here. This made it all the more relaxing and fun to be at. The last blue hole we visited was Riri Blue Hole. With this blue hole, locals can take you in a boat up the river to the blue hole. As we had limited time, our drivers took us straight to the blue hole. Our driver was called Dusty and he was a bit of a local legend. As we weren't staying long at the blue hole, he decided to stay with us. He was so friendly and enjoyed looking at the drone pictures. Amazingly, we also had this blue hole to ourselves. It was just absolutely beautiful and I'd probably say it was the most tranquil of all the blue holes. There was a real rainforest feel to it and there were tons of birds tweeting all around us. A lot of the locals say they love this blue hole because there are places that you can stand, unlike some of the blue holes where it's really deep. Having a gentle swim and listening to the sound of the birds was the perfect way to end our trip. We really loved our time on Santo and would definitely be back. As promised, here's a detailed look at our accommodation, which was Turtle Bay Lodge. We looked at a lot of reviews online and decided to go with Turtle Bay Lodge after so many people raved about it. As you can see, this is the main entrance leading up to what was like a boutique hotel. Everything was decorated beautifully and everything was kept clean and tidy. There was a nice reception when we arrived and they gave us a welcome drink. Everything was so tidy and there was beautiful decking throughout. They also have a dive centre, but we didn't use it on this trip. The resort was run by an English couple who also ran the dive centre. There are also many local staff helping out. They were all really friendly and knowledgeable. The quad bike we hired was also hired from this resort. The dive centre was right next to reception. There was also stand-up paddleboards and kayaks that could be taken out in the bay area free of charge. If you wanted to go further than the bay, there was a small charge. There are various styles of accommodation to suit different travellers, whether it's couples or a family. We decided to book one of the adults-only marquees, mainly because it had air conditioning. There were 4 of this room type available at the resort, and it was their newest room type. It was situated away from the other accommodations, so it felt nice and private and really comfortable. It was so nice to walk down the path every day and see the bay in front of you. As you can see on the right, there was a small shower which was perfect for getting the sand and salt off of you each day. When we arrived, everything was presented beautifully and the space was really clean. They provided towels for the beach as well as bath towels. The bed was really comfy and there was tons of storage and really good hanging space. There were tea and coffee making facilities as well as a fridge. There was also a separate bathroom which was nice and spacious and that led out to a shower which had hot running water. They also supplied body wash. Then it led up to a small garden area which was perfect for drying clothes. Throughout the resort there are some small beach-like areas that allow you to have a paddle or a snorkel straight from the resort. The resort also had a nice pool which we didn't actually use, but I could imagine it would be perfect if you had children and they wanted a bit of a splash around. One of our favourite things about the resort was the beautiful decking that they'd created throughout. It was just perfect for having your breakfast or lunch and dinner here. You could also have cocktails in the evening. The resort also has a restaurant which is open to the public, although they do say they reserve a table for in-house guests every day. This became our favourite spot for walking around and having breakfast. The continental breakfast was really nice, and I often opted for hot items off the menu as it was such great value. There aren't too many restaurants around and you would need to drive to them, so we ate most of our meals at the restaurant and really enjoyed them. It was such a peaceful setting. There was tons of variety on the menu and everything was reasonably priced. It could get busy in the evenings, but with desserts like this we really didn't mind. We loved our stay at Turtle Bay Lodge and highly recommend it. Then they helped us organise a taxi back to the airport, and of course we were sad to leave. At the airport there was only one airport cafe that we saw, but it had a good variety of drinks and snacks, although a little bit pricey. Once you go through security, there really isn't anything to buy, so make sure you use the shop before you go or bring your own snacks. It was very simple to get through the airport, but processes can be very manual, so leave a bit of extra time. There was seating while we waited for the planes, as well as toilet facilities. There was no air conditioning, but there were some large fans. As we made our way across the tarmac, there was a beautiful sunset. We reflected on what an amazing 5 days on Santo Island this had been, and we will definitely be back.